is bigger than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Oh, George, without question, it is. I mean, when I looking at Kamala Harris and listening to her, I can see and I can hear Shirley Chisholm. She was the first black woman to run for president in this country in 1974. And George, she once said, if they don't give us a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And so I think of all the women of color who brought their own folding chairs over the years to create this moment for Kamala Harris. Women like Harriet Tubman, women like Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer once said, never forget where you came from and always praise the bridges that carried you over. And I'd imagine tonight when Kamala Harris speaks, she will speak of some of the bridges who carried her to this moment. And just looking at these images, this is football season, right? This looks like Friday night in America after your favorite team just won the state championship. And how wonderful for her nation in this divided time to have a night like this where people seem joyous, at least for an evening.
Mary Bruce, you're right in the middle of it.
George, I can tell you what also strikes me about this crowd, and we've been walking around a little bit here tonight, is the diversity of this crowd. And you speak about, what this moment means for women and for young girls. And there are a lot of them here tonight. Seeing so many young women, little girls, little black and brown girls wearing their Kamala Harris, Joe Biden t-shirts, waving those American flags. And for the first time tonight, they will be able to look up at that stage and see someone who looks like them. What a powerful moment for everyone in this country, regardless of politics. And it is just so striking in the midst of this pandemic. As someone who has covered every twist and turn of this campaign, it is a little surreal to be at what feels very much like a campaign rally just because we haven't seen this. Joe Biden has been extremely cautious throughout this entire campaign to only hold relatively small, socially distanced events. They are trying their best to make sure this is socially distanced. You can see, though, the crowd there is starting to fill in a little bit. Everyone, though, in those masks, following the guidelines as much as they can. It is just a moment. It is a moment for Kamala Harris and for Joe Biden to be able to look out and see a throng of supporters in a way that they really haven't been able to see throughout this entire campaign, George.
This is a moment, too, for historically black colleges and universities. Kamala Harris, a graduate of Howard University. Faith Aboobi is there.
Yeah, it's quiet here right now, but the sense of pride on this campus, this HBCU's historically black college right now, is indescribable. This is a university that was established in a time where black people did not have access to education in the civil rights era and the Jim Crow era. And now you have an alumni from this university heading to the second highest office in the land. The group was here earlier on campus. They were gathered here, her sorority sisters. They've helped her campaign along this entire time. They've donated to her campaign, organized efforts to get people to the polling places. And right now at this university, they released a statement saying that a new dawn has broken on campus and that Kamala Harris has swung the Howard hammer and shattered that glass ceiling that is now in pieces and can never be put back together. There are a lot of young black kids here, young black men and women on this campus who are proud of what she has achieved. We talked to several of them this evening, and they are proud to watch her walk into the White House, not as a slave, not as a servant, but in the second highest office in this nation.
Faith Aboobi, thanks very much. I want to bring in Pierre Thomas as well. Pierre, you cover the Justice Department, Chief Justice correspondent. There was so much concern among Homeland Security and the FBI in the days leading to this campaign about violence in the streets. At least for tonight, at least right now, that's not what we're seeing.
Washington is full of joy tonight. I saw so many honking horns as I came in, George. It was quite remarkable seeing people having joy in the streets, even in the Black Lives Matter Plaza, where there was so much tension and unrest this summer. And as you look at the joy, we also know that Biden and Harris will face enormous challenges. In the days ahead, African Americans will be wanting some accountability. Right now in this country, we've seen that African Americans in some jurisdictions are 5 to 10 times more likely to be arrested, often pulled over at a rate double their white counterparts. So as the joy recedes tonight, there's a lot of work ahead, George.
Yvette Simpson, this was a difficult issue for Joe Biden to straddle in the campaign. He grew up in a different time, and his record on criminal justice issues was often a cause of concern in the black community.
And he didn't quite get that right until the end. I remember he was doing a town hall with you, and it was for the first time he ever acknowledged that maybe his action in 1994 with the crime bill wasn't the best thing, and that maybe he should have done it differently. And so I hope he gets it right. I think he will. I think with Kamala Harris with him, I think they're going to get it right. And I was actually reflecting with Terry earlier, the fact that the Obama administration brought folks from Ferguson into the White House and started to build actually the beginnings of this work. And so my hope is that he will pick that up. Now, unfortunately, we have more names to say. We have more activists. We have more parents, because there's been so many murders since Ferguson that we can also bring to the table. And one of the hopeful points that I have about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is I hope they take this early time to bring real people in, to bring them around the table with problem solvers and actually let them be a part of the solution. That's one example, I think, from the Obama-Biden administration where they got that right.
David Muir, he signaled the number one problem he has to solve, the pandemic.
Absolutely, and he's been very consistent on that, even in recent days, in filling the vacuum as America waited for results to the election. He often, when he came out to speak, would talk about the pandemic first and not the momentum that his campaign was feeling inside that he was going to be the president-elect. They talked about how they met with the coronavirus task force. When I sat down with both of them, both Joe Biden and Senator Harris, they both talked about the pandemic. Senator Harris said we've got to make sure when there is a safe vaccine that it's not the people who would get it most easily that should get it first. It should be the frontline workers and families and communities that wouldn't have access necessarily. And you know, I have to point out that Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris not only for the diversity and the history-making that will come with that choice, but he chose Kamala Harris because he knew she could take the incoming fire that comes by being a first, by making history on this stage today. Her background as a prosecutor, she is tough, and he knows that she's up to the job.
No question about that. Rahm Emanuel, he's going to have to get to work on this pandemic even before he's president. First order of business as soon as next week.
Yeah, well, he also is going to be, he just named a task force, or it's some of the names are out. I mean, first of all, you got to think that getting the pandemic, both the public health side, the vaccine, et cetera, organized is the first domino of a series of things. You can't get to the economy, you can't get to other pieces until you get your hands around a problem that's now totally raging out of control. And they're going to be doing this in a very kind of succinct manner of going at each one of these things. But the first and foremost, and I'm remembered of this story when I worked with doing the transition, President Bush helped us by just kicking the auto industry crisis out 7 to 8 weeks, allowed us to get the stimulus in place, the task force in place, so we could have a plan in place. But the first domino of any piece, and it's dependent on this, is getting basically your arms around, which is today it's at 120,000 new cases a day. We're now, used to be 40,000, 35,000. It is now tripled in just a month. And getting your hand around that and putting this back in the bag allows the economy to start to take its own healing area, and then putting a floor on that, and then a growth strategy behind that.
It's going to require him, Chris Christie, calling in your former colleagues, governors across the country, Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, and I think the Republicans and Democratic governors will all be anxious to work and make sure that what they do is get the help they need for their states and some strong direction. That's what the governors want. They've been handling this. I think in the main, these governors have been handling this pretty well. And you can see around the country that the approval ratings of governors, regardless of party, in states. You have Larry Hogan above 70% in Maryland. You have Andrew Cuomo in the same range in New York. So this is not a partisan issue.
There's an opportunity here. It's the opportunity that Donald Trump missed. In a divided America, we have to find what we have in common and work on it together. And obviously, we've got this pandemic in common. And Biden speaks the language of teamwork very naturally. It's really who he is. And he talks about the reason we wear masks is for each other, take care of each other. He has a natural appeal to putting our shoulders to the wheel against a common problem. That's what it was, another opportunity to divide for Donald Trump. It's an opportunity for Joe Biden to do the first thing he's got to do, which is find what we have in common and work on it together.
And in some ways, low-hanging fruit. I mean, you've got a majority of Americans who say, yeah, we want to wear masks. Yeah, there could be some regional differences, but a majority of Americans say, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I don't always like doing it, but it makes a lot of sense.
In this state, the one place consistently Republicans found some difference with the president, President Trump, was on the virus. So that when you say it's low-hanging fruit, it is low-hanging fruit, both in the sense simple things you can do, but also a place where they're going to work with a new incoming president.
And Sarah Fagan, Chris Christie was talking about the governors. Do you think that there can be a critical mass of Republicans in Washington who are ready to sign on to at least some of the Biden agenda on the pandemic?
Well, yes, certainly stimulus. I mean, we've been there on a stimulus package for a long time. Now, the parties obviously disagree about how much money should be provided in the stimulus. But even if Joe Biden accepted what Republicans want, it's $2 trillion. It's a lot of money that can do a lot of things for people. And they will have to meet in the middle. Look, I think Republicans, like Democrats, are exhausted. And nobody goes to Washington and wants to fight. They want to do things. They want to have ceremonies back in their districts talking about, good things they've done. And, there's certainly been some of that in the last 4 years. But there's just a lot of conflict, and I think Republicans will be happy to have Joe Biden to work with, assuming Joe Biden recognizes that there is many people tonight who are just as disappointed as there are people jubilant in the streets.
I was going to say, this is one of those deals you can say the global number is X, but we're going to spend it in a different way. And that's how you just basically meet you halfway, which is the Republicans say, we're going to okay with $2 trillion. Let's say that's the stimulus number. They say, but Biden's going to say, but this is how I want to divide it. I want more state and local. And they're going to say, okay. That's how you basically cut a deal on this.
And one of the things that I think Republicans, to build off what Yvette was saying earlier, where he can find common ground is on further criminal justice reform. Yeah. A lot of Republicans supported criminal justice reform that President Trump passed, and a lot of Democrats did. And I think there's an acknowledgement in both parties that we need to look at our criminal justice system and make it more effective and make it fairer. And you saw that in the criminal justice reform that was passed in the last couple of years. And I think it's another area where, Republicans and Democrats can come together because they already have. And they've seen some of the positive results from that.
I think, Martha Raddatz, if that happens in Washington, perhaps a lot of it behind the scenes, all the exhaustion Americans have felt over the last few years will go away because they don't have to pay attention to everything that's going on every single minute of the day in Washington.
That's right, and it is exhausting. It's exhausting for the country. It's certainly exhausting for us. Tonight, George, I actually walked down to the White House as well to sort of see what that was like down there, but it prompted me to call some people in Texas, in a very Trump town, Honey Grove, Texas, and talk to Carl Wild there, who was a former Trump supporter. And he said it's just very quiet there. People are accepting it. They're not really listening to what Donald Trump is saying and not saying. In other words, conceding. But he said, this is democracy at work. It is democracy at work, and that's what we're seeing. And hopefully the next few years won't be quite as exhausting.
And here she comes, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We can imagine that electric smile behind the mask. She's going to savor this moment. The horns are going off. A big exhale.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. So, thank you. Good evening. So, Congressman John Lewis
before his passing, wrote, "Democracy is not a state, it is an act." And what he meant was that America's democracy is not guaranteed. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. To guard it and never take it for granted. And protecting our democracy takes struggle, it takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future. And when our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, with the very soul of America at stake, and the world watching, you ushered in a new day for America. To our campaign staff and volunteers, this extraordinary team, thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the democratic process. And for making this victory possible. To the poll workers and election officials across our country who have worked tirelessly to make sure every vote is counted, our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. You have protected the integrity of our democracy. And to the American people who make up our beautiful country, thank you for turning out in record numbers to make your voices heard. And I know times have been challenging, especially the last several months. The grief, sorrow, and pain, the worries and the struggles. But we have also witnessed your courage, your resilience, and the generosity of your spirit. For 4 years, you marched and organized for equality and justice, for our lives and for our planet. And then you voted. And you delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. You chose Joe Biden as the next president of the United States of America. And Joe is a healer, a uniter, a tested and steady hand, a person whose own experience of loss gives him a sense of purpose that will help us as a nation reclaim our own sense of purpose. And a man with a big heart who loves with abandon. It's his love for Jill, who will be an incredible First Lady. It's his love for Hunter and Ashley and his grandchildren and the entire Biden family. And while I first knew Joe as vice president, I really got to know him as the father who loved Beau, my dear friend who we remember here today. And to my husband, Doug, and our children, Cole and Ella, and my sister, Maya, and our whole family, I love you all more than I can ever express. We are so grateful to Joe and Jill for welcoming our family into theirs on this incredible journey. And to the woman most responsible for my presence here today, my mother, Kamala Harris, who is always in our hearts. When she came here from India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine this moment. But she believed so deeply in an America where a moment like this is possible. And so I am thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women, who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are often, too often, overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. All the women who have worked to secure and protect the right to vote for over a century, 100 years ago with the 19th Amendment, 55 years ago with the Voting Rights Act, and now in 2020 with a new generation of women in our country who cast their ballots and continued the fight for their fundamental right to vote and be heard. Tonight, I reflect on their struggle, their determination, and the strength of their vision to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And I stand on their shoulders. And what a testament it is to Joe's character that he had the audacity to break one of the most substantial barriers that exists in our country and select a woman as his vice president. But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way. And to the American people, no matter who you voted for, I will strive to be a vice president, like Joe was to President Obama, loyal, honest, and prepared, waking up every day thinking of you and your family. Because now is when the real work begins, the hard work, the necessary work, the good work, the essential work to save lives and beat this epidemic, to rebuild our economy so it works for working people, to root out systemic racism in our justice system and society, to combat the climate crisis, to unite our country and heal the soul of our nation. And the road ahead will not be easy, but America is ready. And so are Joe and I. We have elected a president who represents the best in us, a leader the world will respect and our children will look up to, a commander-in-chief who will respect our troops and keep our country safe, and a president for all Americans. And it is now my great honor to introduce the President-elect of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
And there he is, bounding onto the stage. Just a few weeks short of 78 years old, determined not to show it right now, feeling this moment. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., who will be the 46th President of the United States. Fist bump for these times. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris first brought together by Joe Biden's late son, Beau, who was Attorney General of Delaware. Kamala Harris served as Attorney General of California. They worked together. Had a warm relationship, tested during the campaign as she went on the attack during the first debate, but they overcame that. And tonight, she celebrates being the first woman Vice President-elect of the United States.
Hello, my fellow Americans, and the people who brought me to the dance, Delawareans. I see my buddy Senator Tom Carper down there, and I think Senator Coons is there, and I think the governor's around. Is that Ruth Ann? And that former Governor Ruth Ann Minner. Most importantly, my sisters-in-law and my sister Valerie. Anyway. Folks, the people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation. 74 million. What I must admit has surprised me tonight. We're seeing all over this nation, all cities and all parts of the country, indeed across the world, an outpouring of joy, of hope, renewed faith in tomorrow, bring a better day. And I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you've placed in me. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States. And work with all my heart, with the confidence of the whole people, to win the confidence of all of you. And for that is what America, I believe, is about. It's about people. And that's what our administration will be all about. I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again, and to unite us here at home. It's the honor of my lifetime that so many millions of Americans have voted for that vision. And now, the work of making that vision is real. It's a task, the task of our time. Folks, as I said many times before, I'm Jill's husband. And I would not be here without her love and tireless support of Jill and my son Hunter and Ashley, my daughter, and all our grandchildren and their spouses and all our family. They're my heart. Jill's a mom, a military mom, an educator. And she has dedicated her life to education. But teaching isn't just what she does, it's who she is. For American educators, this is a great day for y'all. You're going to have one of your own in the White House. And Jill's going to make a great First Lady. I'm so proud of her. And I'll have the honor of serving with the fantastic Vice President who you just heard from, Kamala Harris, who makes history as the first woman, first black woman, the first woman from South Asian descent, the first daughter of an immigrant ever elected in this country. Don't tell me it's not possible in the United States. It's long overdue. And we're reminded tonight of those who fought so hard for so many years to make this happen. But once again, America's bent the arc of the moral universe more toward justice. Kamala, Doug, like it or not, your family. You become an honorary Biden, there's no way out. All those of you who volunteered and worked the polls in the middle of this pandemic, local elected officials, you deserve a special thanks from the entire nation. And to my campaign team and all the volunteers, and all who gave so much of themselves to make this moment possible, I owe you. I owe you. I owe you everything. And all those who supported us, I'm proud of the campaign we built and ran. I'm proud of the coalition we put together, the broadest and most diverse coalition in history. Democrats, Republicans, independents, progressives, moderates, conservatives, young, old, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight, transgender, white, Latino, Asian, Native American. I mean it, especially those moments, and especially those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours. I said at the outset, I wanted to represent this campaign to represent and look like America. We've done that. Now that's what I want the administration to look like and act like. For all those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself, but now let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans. They're Americans. The Bible tells us to everything there is a season, a time to build, a time to reap, and a time to sow, and a time to heal. This is the time to heal in America. Now this campaign is over. What is the will of the people? What is our mandate? I believe it's this. Americans have called upon us to marshal the forces of decency, the forces of fairness, to marshal the forces of science and the forces of hope in the great battles of our time. The battle to control the virus, the battle to build prosperity, the battle to secure your family's health care, the battle to achieve racial justice and root out systemic racism in this country, and the battle to save our planet by getting climate under control, the battle to restore decency, defend democracy, and give everybody in this country a fair shot. That's all they're asking for, a fair shot. Folks, our work begins with getting COVID under control. We cannot repair the economy, restore our vitality, or relish life's most precious moments, hugging our grandchildren, our children, our birthdays, weddings, graduations, all the moments that matter most to us until we get it under control. On Monday, I will name a group of leading scientists and experts as transition advisors to help take the Biden-Harris COVID plan and convert it into an action blueprint that will start on January the 20th, 2021. That plan will be built on bedrock science. It will be constructed out of compassion, empathy, and concern. I will spare no effort, none, or any commitment to turn around this pandemic. Folks, I'm a proud Democrat, but I will govern as an American president. I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. Let this grim era of demonization in America begin to end here and now. The refusal of Democrats and Republicans to cooperate with one another, it's not some mysterious force beyond our control. It's a decision, a choice we make. And if we can decide not to cooperate, then we can decide to cooperate. And I believe that this is part of the mandate given to us from the American people. They want us to cooperate in their interest. And that's the choice I'll make. And I'll call on Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, to make that choice with me. The American story is about slow yet steadily widening the opportunities in America. And make no mistake, too many dreams have been deferred for too long. We must make the promise of the country real for everybody, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their faith, their identity, or their disability. Folks, America has always been shaped by inflection points, by moments in time where we've made hard decisions about who we are and what we want to be. Lincoln in 1860, coming to save the Union. FDR in 1932, promising a beleaguered country a new deal. JFK in 1960, pledging a new frontier. And 12 years ago, when Barack Obama made history, he told us, yes, we can. Well, folks, we stand at an inflection point. We have an opportunity to defeat despair, to build a nation of prosperity and purpose. We can do it. I know we can. I've long talked about the battle for the soul of America. We must restore the soul of America. Our nation is shaped by the constant battle between our better angels and our darkest impulses. And what presidents say in this battle matters. It's time for our better angels to prevail. Tonight, the whole world is watching America. And I believe at our best, America is a beacon for the globe. We will lead not only by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. I've always believed, many of you heard me say it, I've always believed we can define America in one word: possibilities. That, in America, everyone should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take them. You see, I believe in the possibilities of this country. We're always looking ahead to an America that's freer and more just, ahead to an America that creates jobs with dignity and respect, ahead of America that cures diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, ahead to an America that never leaves anyone behind, ahead of America that never gives up, never gives in. This is a great nation. It's always been a bad bet to bet against America. We're a good people. This is the United States of America, and there's never been anything we've been not able to do when we've done it together. Folks, in the last days of the campaign, I began thinking about a hymn that means a lot to me and my family, particularly my deceased son, Bo. It captures the faith that sustains me and which I believe sustains America. And I hope it can provide some comfort and solace the 230,000 Americans who've lost a loved one to this terrible virus this year. My heart goes out to each and every one of you. Hopefully this hymn gives you solace as well. And it goes like this. And he will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, and make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. And now together, on eagle's wings, we embark on the work that God and history have called upon us to do, with full hearts and steady hands, with faith in America and in each other, with love of country, a thirst for justice. Let us be the nation that we know we can be, a nation united, a nation strengthened, a nation healed. The United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, there's never been anything we've tried we've not been able to do. So remember, as my grandpapa, our grandpapa used to say when I walked out of his home when I was a kid up in Scranton, he said, "Joey, keep the faith." And our grandmother, when she was alive, she yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Spread the faith. God love you all. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops." Thank you, thank you, thank you.
President-elect Joe Biden. Talk about a man fortified by victory, the most forceful he's been throughout this campaign, after receiving the most votes ever of any American presidential candidate ever at the age of 77. Boiled down his message to 3 words, he did it: time to heal. That was his message to a nation in the grip of a pandemic. Joe Biden, Dr. Joe Biden, now joining him out on the stage. That was his message to the millions of Americans out of work. That was his message in a time of racial tension, at a time when raw politics is seeping into too many corners of our lives. He says it's time to heal. He promised first and foremost to be a president who will not divide but will unify. Talking now of higher love. You still saw some of the old school politician in him. He couldn't help himself. He walked out onto the stage and called out the 2 senators from Delaware. That's a man who's been running for office since the age of 27, as the rest of his family comes out to celebrate as well. His son Hunter, the target of so many, gets a hug from his dad. Joe Biden never wavered in that love, no matter what was thrown at his son. Kamala Harris's family is out there as well. Mary Bruce, you were out there the whole campaign. We saw a man energized tonight.
It was a Joe Biden like I really have never seen during this campaign. And George, when you take a step back, this has been such a hard-fought year and a half. A campaign completely upended by a pandemic. It is likely going to be a very hard-fought transition and a long road ahead. But tonight was a moment for so many here, that sense of a collective exhale and a moment really to relish in the possibility. That's what seemed reflected so much in the remarks here tonight. That sense of hope that the country can maybe come together, that the country can heal going forward, and that they can perhaps accomplish all of these big things that they are setting out to do. Look, they know that this is going to be very difficult, but tonight is a moment to pause, to take it all in as you see them doing now on the stage, and to think about the possibility and the opportunity ahead.
David Muir said the first job getting this pandemic under control.
Yes, he's been very consistent on that. He said this is a time to heal America, as you pointed out, George. He said marshal the forces of decency, of hope, and we must control the virus. That was first on his list that he presented to the American people tonight. And what an extraordinary moment tonight for Joe Biden, George. He turned 78 years old in just a couple of weeks. This is a man who has dreamed of this moment for more than 30 years. He ran for president 3 times. But perhaps this is the time for the man to meet the moment. He knows what he's walking into. He said, for those of you who voted for Donald Trump, let's give each other a chance. Let's lower the temperature. Let's see each other, listen to each other. And he said, let's end this era of demonization in America. It ends now. And he will call on Democrats and Republicans to cooperate. And George, this was something he told both of us in this campaign leading up to this moment. That's what he intends to do.
Lindsey Davis, Kamala Harris, resplendent in the white of the suffragette movement, celebrated so many firsts. Daughter of an immigrant, first woman, first black vice president.
And when you talk about the first, there are actually T-shirts that the Biden campaign sold prior to this that said first but not last. That was something that she shared tonight, saying, while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. She has said in the past that her mother raising what she called 2 black daughters, even though her mother was from India, that she had told them, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last. Quite often in politics, it can be perceived as the more things change, the more they stay the same. But for at least tonight, it felt that there was a spirit of inspiration, diversity, certainly as we look at the group that's assembled on the stage there, representation. And again, Kamala, as you said, in her suffragette white, but with her brown skin, which again, I can't emphasize enough, is so important for young girls, particularly of color, to be able to see someone who looks like them in a role that they may aspire for. Both the president-elect and vice president-elect talked about opportunity. Both talked about black voters coming through and standing up for them. And both talked about healing.
And the word possibilities from both of them as well. John Carl, Joe Biden is a man shaped by loss and recovery from loss. That's where his empathy is rooted in. And it was that loss that he cited when he reached out to the Trump supporters.
He sure did, George. And there is a line in this speech that I think will reverberate. He said, to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as enemies. They are not enemies. They are Americans. That is a dramatic change in tone from where we have been.
First day possibly of a new era. You see it right there. Biden, fireworks above Wilmington, Delaware. We just heard his first speech as president-elect, the first speech from the vice president-elect, Kamala Harris. That is all for us tonight. We're going to have much more in the days ahead. We hope you have a good night as well.
Before halftime. And keeper, pitch it in the flat there. DJ Johnson walks in. As we welcome you back on ABC after the ABC new coverage of Joe Biden's speech, the Ducks have taken the lead here. A touchdown pass from Tyler Shuck to DJ Johnson, the junior tight end.
Absolutely love the call here by Joe Moorhead and Oregon's offense. Stanford has been all night long trying to create a wall against Verdell in the interior of the offensive line. And I knew eventually Shuck was going to start to pull it and run it and throw it. And this time he ends up throwing it to Johnson for the touchdown.
And the Ducks offense has had a couple of turnovers tonight. A 96-yard, 10-play drive in 4 minutes to take the lead. The catch by Johnson, that back shoulder throw. Tremendous acrobatic catch at the 2-yard line, and then little Joe Mo trickery here. DJ Johnson, the tight end, big fella in space, and Oregon outplayed for much of this first half, is now in front 14-7.
Adscribe Music burst into song when he got free delivery from Popeyes.
Ooh, baby, I got Popeyes.
Order from the Popeyes app today and get free delivery with minimum purchase.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.